Hey Mo,
Ricky.
the doctor is in.
It is so true. We're in, and we are in with probably one of the most important topics that may be not quite cancer related, but directly related to everything that we do here. Like if you only watch one episode this year and you have a nonprofit or you have a cause or an interest that you want to support, this is the show.
This
This is
is the
it.
show. This is the show. If you want to get money, this is the show.
And we got an expert in it, don't we?
I know we have the expert, Amanda Brown Lehrman, and you want to tell him you're my daughter, or should I?
I'm like, you tell me, Mom.
I know. So this is the daughter that you don't see as often as the other daughter, who's our boss. But Amanda's here today. Thank goodness for her. And I'm totally a proud mom. She started working for Obama her sophomore year at Dartmouth, and hit the campaign trail and was in the White House working and met my son in love and had my grandbabies and then went to the DNC and has had all kinds of jobs in the Obama administration. And she most recently was at the supermajority, where she was really looking for women's rights. And Amanda can tell the story way better than me, but now she's at GoFundMe and she's brought her friend with her. Hey.
Hi,
everyone.
Jess is like family. Jess is like family too.
Great.
Hey, Jess, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
We're great. We're great. Good to see you.
Yeah.
You too.
So, it's Breast Cancer Action Month. And, we had a great conversation with Breast Cancer Action. They are a nonprofit on the West Coast and they actually trademarked the words Breast Cancer Action, like something like years ago. So we kind of yielded and are using their logo. But when the month started, our pink month, our pink washing month, where everything focuses on us, we gave a list of 10 things you could do during the month. Well, today is it October 18th. We're more than half over. So if you haven't done a fundraiser or given money to somebody, now's the time. And if you want to do a fundraiser, these lovely, lovely ladies are going to tell us how to do it and make it simple, right? So we're so glad you're here.
Yes, we are. Tell us your current positions. What are you doing now, since Ricky got us caught up to where you've been? But what are your titles and what are you doing? What do you love about it? What's your why?
Ooh, I love that question. So I, have been, have spent like my career, if you will, doing political organizing, and actually met this incredible woman named Margaret Richardson back on the Obama campaign trail. We were in Philadelphia together. And when I was thinking about what to do next, having like never entertained the idea of working at a corporate company or let alone a tech company, she was like, I think you might like GoFundMe. I'm here now. I need partners in crime and hope, and you should come here and help build an operation. So I have two actual roles at GoFundMe. So I started as the senior director for policy and engagement, which is a really fun job. Allows me to think about community, who are the people who are using the platform, who are the people who could benefit from the platform, and how also, do we as a brand, which is our mission is to help people, how do we actually show up as a brand and really live that every single day? And so that, is, I think for me, it's a driver just in the sense that like you really do, you talk to people every single day, you help them start fundraisers, you help them reach their goals, and then you've changed lives. And that sort of like direct connection to impact is really, really powerful. There's of course, some heartbreaking truths about the need for GoFundMe. Dr. Mo, that's a whole other conversation just about, wildly expensive costs of living, of healthcare, all of those things that then, present themselves and manifest and show up on the GoFundMe platform. And so one of the things that I get to think about a lot is I think people like associate shame with asking for help. And there's like a fear or a reluctance to do so. And honestly, it relates a lot to the other times I've been on this show where we talk about like Black women and their superwoman capes who don't know how to ask for help and delegate things, right? And like there shouldn't be shame in that. And I think normalizing the behavior of like reaching out to your community, pulling people in, and honestly just facing the reality that like you might be feeling a certain way, but there are millions of people, many of whom are in your community already, that literally just want to help. And if you give them a link and a way to do that, they will show up for you.
Oh my gosh, that's powerful. Say that again.
We like forget about that part, that like philanthropy, like people want to help. That is a part of people's innate, like fundamental identity. When there is a call to action, people want to show up, and they really want to show up for the people that they love and care about. And so we see that happen, those connections every single day on our platform. And so for all the people who are like, oh, I don't want to start a GoFundMe, or I don't want to like ask my people for help, my answer is like, put it out there. The universe will take it. And like, I trust that your community is going to show up for you. And that will feel like the biggest, warmest hug that you have ever felt, in this way that like, I don't know, people just really do show up for other people. So that's what drives me. And sorry, my second job, and then Jess, it's your turn, is I oversee all of the philanthropic efforts of a partner organization, which is GoFundMe.org. And so we do a bunch of granting to individuals and to nonprofit organizations as well that are taking on some of the most important societal problems. And really do a lot of work in crisis moments to make sure that people have the sort of immediate relief that we are capable of moving in those moments.
Well, I got to say something first, Amanda. I love it that you have these marketing jobs. I used to always tell her that.
No, we would get in the biggest arguments about this.
We'll talk about this later, but she has these marketing jobs, and she won't admit they're marketing, you know, because it's politics and whatever, but it's a marketing job. I mean, we said the word brand, so don't even get me started. But the one thing that I think to your second job, you know, when the Hawaii fires happened, you know, Amanda calls me and says, so Mom, I've had, you know, my pièce de résistance. I taught, you know, connected with Oprah. I talked to Oprah because Oprah was so supportive of the Hawaii thing. So
yeah,
it's a big,
wow, that's a mountaintop moment. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Jess gets to do that a lot more than I. She's had more experience. So Jess, you should intro yourself too.
Yeah.
And then you have to name drop now.
Yeah.
I know. It's a really unique position to be in, to work with these incredible people that span so many different communities. And they really do want to show up and help people help each other. So it's a really cool and fulfilling job to service. So I'm really excited to be here, really excited to tell you a little bit more about what we do, but first about me. So I've been with GoFundMe for a little over 3 years, but I support our users on the platform, ensuring that they're successful. So we really lean in to helping people that may have organically seen success and need a little bit more help. So we help them. And then in addition to that, we provide resources to help people be successful. So I know we'll talk a little bit more about that and what that looks like today. And then prior to GoFundMe, I spent about 10 years in the both for-profit and nonprofit spaces in youth sports. So have a passion for sports, love sports. And it's a fun way to bring that into GoFundMe as well. But I think for me, what drives me is really leaning into the different communities that we see each and every day, and finding ways to help empower them. Amanda mentioned that, you know, there's fears and stigmas around asking for help, but I always like to ask the question, you know, if your friend or if your sister or somebody that you care about was fundraising, would you think twice about helping them? And usually that answer is no. You absolutely want to show up. And Amanda said that community will show up for you. And it's so true. But it's a really tough thing when you need to be the one asking your community for help. So really breaking down those barriers and educating people, not just on the platform, but explaining that is a really amazing part of the work that we do. So really looking forward to walking you through a little bit more about what we're doing and how we can help.
Great. You know, we have so many causes, even within our causes. And, you know, we have like a fund that we call our Wanda's Fund. It's from our founder, and that's the money that we use to give money to people for life issues. I got to just call from a breastie just now. I'm stuck at the train station. I can't get home to my kids. I need to buy a train ticket. Can you help me? In the next 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of stuff we get. Or we had a breastie living in her car on chemo
Wow.
like a month ago, and we helped her live in a hotel for a month. So, but those funds are pretty limited because most of our work is program related and grant funded by our pharma partners. And so, you know, that fund is really reliable. So we need a way to grow that fund. And, you know, we tend to make a little money on it for it in October because people are more giving, but I would love to do a GoFundMe and also suggest that to our breasties, like our
Mhm.
friend that was living in her car, like, let's set up a GoFundMe for you.
Yeah.
And we've
Yeah.
done it before, but I don't think we really knew how to do it. And this is before Amanda worked with us. I didn't know how to, I couldn't call her and say, fix it for me. So,
Listen, I had a GoFundMe for our community garden, and I didn't know you had to take the money out in a certain amount of time, and it got sent back to the people who donated.
oh no.
A couple $100 in there, but still, you know, there's a lot that
It's
people
not.
don't know, and there's a lot of myths about GoFundMe too, you know?
Yeah.
And like you said, Amanda, a lot of shaming. I see
Yeah.
there's a lot of this sort of elitism, particularly surrounding things like funeral expenses. But I mean, whatever your cause might be, you certainly have the right to ask your fellow neighbor, you ask your fellow man and woman and
Right.
other and non-binary individual, you know, if they would be willing to support you in your endeavors. And we've seen some really successful and some maybe not so successful campaigns. So what are the elements of like a successful campaign, and when do you know it's maybe gonna flop?
Yeah.
Maybe we should start there. I don't know.
Yeah, Jeff, you should feel free to jump in there. But one thing that I would say, Mo, just even thinking about the sort of connection to this specific issue. So GoFundMe sees an incredible amount of activity, right?
Mhm.
I think, you know, some of the numbers are like more than 300 million donations have happened on GoFundMe.
Wow. Wow.
Incredible.
$1 billion that has moved through this platform.
How many million? How many million?
$5 billion.
$5 billion. Wow. 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 Wow.
It's operational, you know, globally. I was, you know, just talking actually to one of our friends on the data team. In the past year, someone has donated on the GoFundMe, like to a GoFundMe campaign, approximately every second. Every second there's somebody giving. And our founders, I think, really actually built this entire organization and business with this hope to revolutionize philanthropy. But what people don't know is it's because their mom was sick. They had like a sick mom. They were trying to figure out how to raise money, and they didn't understand like how to get it to how to just get it to the organization that they were trying to benefit from. And it turned into them being like, oh my God, we have to solve this problem. So we're going to start this platform. And it's really grown in the last, you know, it's only 13 years old, and it's grown to be what I would describe this like transformational global platform that has, you know, supported and or worked with more than 100 million people. So it's this huge, incredible network. And I think what GoFundMe does really well is what Jess was alluding to earlier, is that it's like, it isn't just a platform. So we constantly have the privilege of going into different communities, you know, being at IRL with people and like talking to them about the platform. And they're like, I had no idea that people work there. I thought it was a freaking app. And I'm like, not many people work here, but like people.
Real. Yep. That I can see that too. You don't know.
Totally. And I'm like, actually, there's a lot of people that work here, and the people that work here aren't all like, I don't know, weird coders, right? Like the people that work here are people that are like Jess and I, that are on the front lines with these people, helping them to find success with their campaigns and really try to set people up for the success. So it might be helpful even to start with like here's how it works. And then Jess, maybe you can like tell us some best best practices. But so, yeah, so very simply, an individual will start a fundraiser with the story. They will be very clear about their request, their call for action. And I think a lot of times Jess says this better. People sometimes overthink this. They think it needs to be perfect. They think it needs to be like the most, I don't know, beautiful, like Shakespearean English, right? Like, no.
It's me, I'm people.
Right. Like, just say what you need, say why you're raising the money, say who it's going to benefit, and like, don't overthink it. I often will say, like, have a glass of wine and write what you want to say, just get it out there. The fundraiser organizer will then share that link with their network, right? Put it everywhere you can. Ricky, you're great at this, right? Just like throw it up wherever you can, share it with ways that you can. Text it, email, social media. GoFundMe has incredible partnerships also with folks. So like even on Facebook, I think it does really well because there's been such a history of people posting GoFundMes that the algorithm like sets it up well. Things like that matter, right? And we know how important sharing is. So a lot of the tips that you'll hear from Jess are about how to share it with more people. And then we have a team of people, a team of experts who are also sharing those stories. So we have people.
Wait, you share them too?
And like people literally their jobs are to wake up in the morning, scour fundraisers that have been started in the last 24 hours in their region or on their beat, and then pitch them. They're pitching them to news media, Jessica, the team, the community engagement team. So we're sharing them with stakeholders when they align, we're sharing them with policymakers. We are trying to spread the word as much as possible to make sure, again, to just add that lift, right? To get people, particularly for people who, sometimes you can't break out of your network. And that is something that I think we take really seriously. It's one of the ways that we can actually mitigate for some of the like inequities that do show up when you're operating at the scale that we are. And so we think about that a lot. And then the donors donate, right? And they're donating not because there's an incentive, it's because they care about the beneficiary. It's because they care about the cause more broadly. And what's so nice, I mean, obviously money is great, right? Everyone needs the money, but like they leave the money or they'll give the money and then they'll leave these like beautiful words of support alongside those donations. And so your fundraising page, in many ways, having even managed like a Caring Bridge page for my mom at one point, like it looks like that, right? Like people are cheering you on, they're praying for you, they're saying, what worked for them, sharing all those wisdoms too, telling you what doctors to go see, but like they're talking to you and communicating with you just as much as they are giving that financial support. And it's like things like that I think also get overlooked when you're just like, oh, it's a fundraising platform. Like there is a lot of feel good also built into it. And so to Dr. Mo's point, once you have this fundraiser set up, and you have set up a bank account, people can start to withdraw the funds within 2 to 5 days. Those deposits then can continue automatically or for like as long as the donations are coming into your page. There is, because we're not holding the money and our payment processes are, if you exceed, and I think it's 100 days, just correct me. But if, you haven't touched it, then we are concerned about, is the money sitting there? What's the intent of the money? And so we will then try to work with the organizer to make sure that the resources are getting to the intended place. And then the one other thing I'll flag, because you mentioned it earlier, Dr. Mo, questions about GoFundMe. The other big team, maybe the biggest team at GoFundMe, is our trust and safety team. And these are folks who work alongside, expert technology that I will never understand myself. But they are verifying organizers. They are verifying the causes. They're looking at these pages as well to ensure that any money that comes in can and will reach the intended beneficiary. And we do all of that to make sure that we are inspiring confidence in the integrity of our platform. Like, we take that very, very seriously. And one of the wonderful things about GoFundMe is that you don't have to start the fundraiser yourself. You can start it for somebody else. And so with that, obviously, comes potential concern, right? And so what we do when you're starting a fundraiser, if I was starting one for my mom, they would make sure that Ricky is going to receive the funds, that the bank account is Ricky's name and things like that. Again, to do that due diligence. And before I turn it over to Jess, in all of my marketing prowess, right, I would be get in trouble with all of our folks on our side if I didn't also mention that we are the only crowdfunding platform that has a giving guarantee. So we promise a full refund up to a year in the very rare case of something not going right. This is the first and only donor protection guarantee in the crowdfunding industry. So setting some standards over here. And again, that's because they take trust and safety really seriously and want to make sure that we are keeping all of the customers, that is organizers and also donors on the platform, safe. And we have, a zero tolerance policy for hate, discrimination, and misuse, and are in sort of constant monitoring of all of that to, again, ensure the safety and the positive experience on the platform.
Incredible. Holy cow.
Wow. Wow. Pretty big stuff, Manna. Yeah. Wow.
But I think there are like things that I don't like are honestly pretty simple, but just I hope also like our land as encouragement for folks who are considering starting a GoFundMe. So Jess, you should share some of those best practices.
Yeah, well, let's dive right in. And let's start with the basics. So Amanda, you mentioned talking about your story, and maybe you do that with a glass of wine or however you like to write your story, but there's a few tips and tricks that I always like to encourage all of our users to do. So no matter who it is, whether you're starting one for yourself or you're starting one for somebody else, you need to make sure to call out who you are. We talked about our trust and safety team. They're looking for some key pieces of information in each fundraiser story to ensure that we're protecting and following through with our giving guarantee. So making sure to identify who you are, what you're fundraising for, how funds are going to be used. Those really basic questions are super helpful. And we always encourage putting them right up in the front, right before the fold. So get that information out there as quick as possible. The other big tip I always like to encourage is being authentic. Too often we can get too much in our minds about writing this beautiful story. And if you want to write the most amazing synonyms that you can, that is a-okay. But sometimes just leaning into your story and just telling people how it is powerful enough. So it doesn't have to be beautifully written. Sometimes I've seen fundraisers that are just 4 or 5 sentences that end up being incredibly successful. And success, really depends on who's writing it, right? But they see success and see people sharing their story, even if it's just a few lines. So it doesn't have to be incredibly long. It doesn't have to be beautifully written. It just has to be something that is concise, to the point, and clear, so that both our team on GoFundMe understands what's happening, and your donors, really, they're the ones that you need to make sure you're appealing to. And then another last tip in this telling your story is your organization matters. So we have some components within your story that you can use. So I always encourage people to use bolding if you're trying to call something out. Remember, how would you read a story, right? If you're looking at a fundraiser, what are the things that are eye-catching for you? And typically it's some type of bolding. It's something that's quick, like, here's what I need you to do. Please do this. Something along those lines that helps people actually understand what type of action that you're hoping that they'll take. So once you have your story, you might have a beautiful picture that you love and that makes sense, or even a video, because now in today's day and age, a lot of people would much prefer to watch a 60-second video than read paragraphs upon paragraphs. So sometimes that's a great way to appeal to your donors too. But once you have everything written, once you're good on the back end, sharing your story. So Amanda mentioned that, email, text, etc. Yes, 100% to all of that. It can feel a little overwhelming and daunting though, when, you've created your fundraiser, it'll pop up and say, would you like to share it? And you're like, no, I don't want to share it yet. I'm not ready. So to break that down, the first people we always encourage you to share it with is your closest supporters, whether that be friends, family, people within your inner circle that you feel really comfortable just saying, hey, I started this, please help me. And maybe that's a donation, or maybe that's having them share. So I'm going to talk about a clear call to action in just a moment, but having that direct ask is going to be really important. And that goes for all levels of sharing. So really making sure that you lean on those close supporters for you first. Ideally, that will help kind of start the ball rolling, and you might get a few donations, which makes you also have a little bit more confidence to reach out to more people. So beyond close supporters, beyond friends, using social media. So social media is something that is in the majority of our lives at some point, whether it's your own account or you're seeing things that are being, shared in media sources from social media. So we all see it. So if you have Facebook, post to Facebook. If you use Instagram, post on Instagram. There's a lot of different ways you can leverage socials, but really just being intentional. So if you have Instagram, making sure to not only maybe make an in-post feed or sharing a story about it, but adding your GoFundMe link to your bio for the time that you feel comfortable with. Having it live in a place that you feel, people will see it, even if they might not catch your story, will help drive traffic. Same thing, LinkedIn might feel weird to post on something, especially if it's from a personal nature, but those are people that you interact with on a daily basis, typically, or in some way, shape or form, colleagues, et cetera. So if you feel comfortable sharing that with them, that's a great way to also leverage other communities outside of that really close one.
I got
Wow.
questions. Can there be
Yes.
multiple versions of a GoFundMe? So for your professional colleagues versus your colloquial colleagues, a few people from your neighborhood where you grew up versus, your Instagram generation versus your LinkedIn generation. Does that exist, or do you need to maybe find a sweet spot to cover all the bases?
It's a great
I think Jess froze, or did she?
Froze. Yeah, she froze.
I was just gonna say, I feel like you probably do want to find a sweet spot. One of the, function, or when you start the GoFundMe, you're also going to set up a goal on your page. And so it's, motivating when people feel like they're contributing to a total and are part of something that other people are also doing. And so to try to aggregate that in one place, if I were making the recommendation, Dr. Mo, I would say do it, just have one. It's easier to manage sharing one link rather than sharing 5 links for your different identities.
That's fair. And let me ask you a second follow-up question to that then, because in terms of setting the goal, do you overshoot the goal? Do you make a measurable goal that seems achievable? Instead of the $250,000 goal, do you start in 25,000 increments? And then what about fees? Are there fees that are associated with a GoFundMe?
Good. Both good questions. So with a goal, I think people approach that differently all the time. We see it all the time. Some people are really ambitious, and that is something that drives them, and in their, willingness to share it, and also their community. Other people set more realistic goals and then blow through them. So increase them, right? And you can always increase your goal. So I think it's sort of a personal approach, personal style to that. We certainly have on our website some tips about how to generate a goal and things like that. But again, I think the best way to think about setting a goal is to have that also be authentic to the need that you're asking your community to meet, right? So if you're asking for $50,000 and or if your goal is $50,000 and you're talking about the need to, for a $5,000 expense, that's incongruent, and people might have a question about that. So I think so long as you're sort of narrative and the ask aligns with the goal, and if people feel like they're a part of something, people show up. And then on the fees question, so there's no fee to start or to manage a fundraiser. There is the sort of charges are to operate safely and securely. So one transaction fee, and that is 2.9% plus 30 cents, which is really the same fee that you would face if you were to swipe your credit card at Target or at the grocery store. It's the payment processing fee.
Or send a PayPal, right? Or send a Venmo,
All-
right?
Yeah,
Yep.
all those require that same sort of transaction fee. Always the that's the processing fee that goes directly to payment processors. So GoFundMe isn't actually holding money ever. It's the payment processors. We work with a number of partners to make sure that that is managed properly and that we're always compliant in that way. But just to I don't know if it's helpful to do the math on that. So if you were to raise $500 from 5 different donors, right? You would receive 484 into your bank account. And that would be, there's a calculator that we have on the GoFundMe page to help people understand those fees. And then I think that is a common misconception. So I actually really love to answer that question, that it is, no different than any other sort of platform or running your debit or credit card anywhere. And the one other thing I would say is the way that GoFundMe and Jess and I, take money home to support our families is through tips that people will voluntarily leave on the platform. And many people don't leave a tip. Some people do, and it's really the tips that power the work and that sort of extra support that we're able to provide to make sure that our platform is a safe and trusted experience for everyone.
So somebody's making a donation and then leaving a tip on top of it. That's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
You're living off tips here, huh? Wow.
It's good that my
I
grandchildren.
guess tips off $1 billion platform, it all helps to go to the operations, but you're literally living off tips. And I think that speaks to the need for people's generosity, but also to the generosity of humanity right now at a time when we're really feeling it, right? We're looking around the world and seeing what's happening and wondering, do people care and what do they care about? To know that this whole operation is able to keep going and to expand and to reach people and to optimize and to do all these wonderful things is actually really very encouraging.
I love that. And it's so true. So also I had such an identity crisis when I was coming to GoFundMe because it felt like, such a, I don't know, detour from the work I had been doing before, and that real, I don't know, impactful, if you will, I thought, organizing work for a cause or a person that I really care deeply about, and was oh, am I selling out if I go work at a corporation? If what am I, it was a real identity crisis for me as a human. And that was one of the things that really sort of put me over the edge, Dr. Mo. Obviously we have an incredible group of people on this team who also are constant reminders of there is goodness in the world. But GoFundMe, in the moments after some of the most wild atrocities happen in our world, right? And you come to the platform and you're sort of bombarded with tragedy. It is at the same time or simultaneously just such a reminder about humanity and about the community, about how people show up for one another. And even in Maui, it's that was something that touched a pretty small pop group of people, a small community that the world showed up for. And within 24 hours, we had raised like $1.5 million from grassroots donors who just wanted to support people. We overall on the platform raised something like $70 million to support people in Maui. And we
Wow,
have
that's incredible. I was just going to ask you that question. What did we do overall? Because I think there was a lot of backlash surrounding the ask, right? And surrounding the dichotomy of people who are living on Maui right now, what's happening with indigenous people, indigenous Hawaiians versus folks who are coming in and trying to really, capitalize on the real estate. It got real political and real funky really quickly, didn't it?
It really did. And I think we, I think that was actually sort of a good showing of how we were able to step in, because particularly in times of crisis, there are a lot of organizations that will mobilize, the government will mobilize, FEMA will mobilize, but a lot of those entities can't move resources as fast as we can't even articulate the needs, the like immediate needs of somebody that's like, I need $50 to get gas in my car to relocate my family, right? Like when I don't have access to a bank or to an ATM machine, right? And there's no gas station, right? Like those very immediate real needs, like GoFundMe really does meet a need, and we're able to work in partnership with government entities, with FEMA, so that people can get that immediate relief, and also it doesn't stop them from receiving any of the other longer term aid that might come in. But just even going back to breast cancer, so each year we, tens of thousands of fundraisers are started on GoFundMe for breast cancer and breast cancer related causes. We absolutely see an uptick also in October Action Month, which I think is, something that we're aware of, tracking, monitoring, and even, again, our folks who are on the engagement and amplification teams are like, how can we help even more this month as we see these fundraisers coming in? And last year, more than $60 million was raised for those fundraisers. So for breast cancer,
Wow.
related causes, the platform, we saw more than $60 million come in, and we'll, be releasing an end of year report in the next probably month or so. So we'll have updated numbers on that, but it is really remarkable how people show up. And I was actually looking last night for some like good examples to bring to the group. And one of the things that really stuck out to me from somebody's story was we are helping, the quote was, we're helping to cover the mounting medical expenses, and this page will be a source of encouragement for Shauna as she fights this battle. And that was just so touching to me, that it was also like, it's a sense of community for a woman going through one of the hardest possible things she could go through. And it is, I think, just so much more than the money. And we hope that it can be that for people who are experiencing, particularly, and fighting in their fight, in these fights in particular.
Wow, Manna, wow. All right, Manna, when we're done, we're going to set one up, okay?
Yeah, we'll stay on to do it. It's
Yeah.
simple, really simple.
Okay. All right, well, maybe we'll do the show's over.
Yeah, I'm gonna restart mine for sure, because so many people keep asking, how can I help? How can I help? And I didn't have a way in my mind to pull all the resources together and to mobilize people to actually help. And this is a really great way to do that. I have two questions.
Rides Farm mode, even to raise money to do our retreats.
Exactly right. Yep. I'd love for people, you can sponsor a breastie, right?
Yeah, for Whitney's booby crowns, my booby crowns.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to that. And I think, we need to gather. We do. We need to have these spaces and these events, and we need people's support to do it and make it happen. Jess, I got a question for you, and I think I got two questions for you, but the first one is a fun question. And I want to know, what's the wildest GoFundMe you've ever seen? Best, worst, or craziest GoFundMe ever?
Man, that's a tough one, right? there's so many amazing things that we see all the time. So I think one of the ones that sticks out the most is the largest one I worked on. So I got to support along with a handful of others, Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher's fundraiser last year. So I was able to work hand in hand with their teams and our teams to raise, I believe it was over $32 million for, various groups. So there were two, it was actually a really cool one because we were able to partner with GoFundMe.org, which Amanda mentioned earlier, along with a few other nonprofits that were helping within that. But it was a team effort and we were able to turn around a fundraiser pretty quickly and get that out the door right away. So to see, I think something, we launched on Friday, to see all those donations and the morale come together over the weekend was really incredible. And just seeing that number go up and up and up. And they did a really incredible job of rallying their communities, to show up. So that was probably one of the coolest ones I've seen happen on the platform.
Wow.
Wow.
And then I guess my next question is about sort of financial literacy. Do you partner with or provide education for people in terms of kind of helping to think beyond the moment of their fundraiser and figure out how, longer term strategies, like how do you pivot from a GoFundMe into a more sustainable strategy for fundraising if that's something that you need? Maybe you start with a GoFundMe, but then you need to grow from there. How and what resources are available to help people do that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Amanda.
So interestingly enough, again, GoFundMe is sort of on this quest, our big vision is to be one of the most helpful places in the world. And so as part of that strategy, we have a new partner called Classy, which is a fundraising platform and like really good fundraising technology for organizations. So we have seen people who sort of graduate, if you will, from, being an individual raising money for a specific cause or specific project to then launching their own 501c3 organization and all of a sudden needing a lot more fundraising support and like needing to run a full development program, things like that. So we have sort of a natural growth opportunity for those folks to sort of graduate again to a platform specifically designed to work with nonprofit organizations. And then the other thing I would say, so again, two hats, but oftentimes we'll think about GoFundMe.org as like a good sort of middle player between those two. So we do work with a number of different organizations. We have a number of different partner organizations who don't have granting abilities. So they will raise money on the platform, and then we will turn those that fundraiser into a .org fund that we are then helping to support the the disbursement of the money. So I'm trying to think of a good example. There was after Maui, there was this viral, literally a Google sheet that had just links to people's Venmo, PayPal's, GoFundMe pages, right? It's like,
Oh, yeah.
It went viral. And it was all over, everyone was posting this one Google sheet on the internet. They were making sure that their names and the links were on there. And so this woman that we saw was working with a lot of those folks. So we actually turned a fund. So she had raised money. We had then turned that fund into started granting out to the individuals on that spreadsheet. And we were able to work with her to raise the money and then also get it back out to those individuals directly. And so I think that's a good example also where we can sort of in some ways serve almost like a fiscal sponsor light for a lot of folks who either are, trying to execute against some very specific moment or goal, but even for larger organizations or partner organizations that just don't have the ability to dispense the money. That is the thing that GoFundMe is really good at. And so to the extent that we can help folks do that, we certainly want to do that. And then I guess even, I don't know, to take your question, maybe that's a good thing for us to think more about is that financial literacy piece. We've probably done it a handful of times for some of the, particularly like the viral fundraisers. I'm thinking a lot about even Ralph Yarl, who raised, something like that goal kept increasing. It went from 1 million to ultimately, I think they've raised like 3.5 million in the span of 100 hours after that incident. And
What did that look like? Holy cow.
yeah, and he's a young man who has a whole life ahead of him, who, his aunt set up this fundraiser for him. So we did work with their family a lot just to make sure that that money was, like, how are you setting yourself up for the long term? Like, are you buying a house, or is this going into a trust? And did have a lot of those conversations, but that is probably something even for Jess and I, as we're like thinking about community and how we can better support folks for the long term, really think about that. We did a lot with Damar Hamlin also after, that fundraiser went from $4.5 million for some books to a $9 million fundraiser. And we were able to work with them to ultimately get them set up to do a 501c3. I've been found by my children.
Yeah. Well, Jess, let me pivot to you and ask you about the tax implications of fundraisers. Can you speak to sort of some of the things people should know from a tax standpoint and regulatory standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Ricky, is there something? Oh,
I'm waving to my grandchildren.
oh. Hi, everybody.
Hey, guys.
That's
Hey.
a great question, and definitely comes up more often. And I actually helped somebody navigate that today. So first and foremost, we always recommend for people to consult a tax professional. That is the number one thing I always make sure people are aware of. If you have questions, please make sure to consult a tax professional. But donations are personal gifts. So if that helps explain that a little bit. It's definitely, we consider all donations to be a personal gift versus income. So that is different tax implications.
Gotcha. And then none of the donations themselves are tax deductible directly to GoFundMe, correct?
Correct. So the only time tax deductibility comes into play is when a nonprofit is involved. So if you were to donate to a certified charity fundraiser, those funds, you would receive a tax receipt for those. So those are tax deductible. You'll get a tax receipt and be able to claim those as tax deductible donations.
So that's a different category of GoFundMe then? If a nonprofit wants to set up a GoFundMe and get tax deductible donations, how do they do that?
Yeah, so it's actually really easy. So in the setup flow that we mentioned earlier, you'll have the opportunity to select if you want to raise money for yourself, another person, or a charity. And so that is the flow you would take. You can start one for a charity today. So you could go online and do that. You don't have to be a member of the charity to start a GoFundMe for charity. So for example, I did a polar plunge with my husband and my siblings, and we raised money for a charity. And I did it through GoFundMe. It was really easy. So that's always an option that if people are looking to raise money, maybe you don't want to raise money for yourself or somebody you know, but you do want to be involved and raise money for a cause that you care about. Donating to charity is a great way to do that. And I think around the holiday season, especially, we see a lot of people doing those types of fundraisers, especially. And Amanda mentioned Classy as well. So we also have our nonprofit partner that also helps all the charities do all the amazing work and fundraisers that they're doing too.
All right, I have so many questions because Amanda, we're gonna go to work now, dude. But
I know we could actually make like in your sort of suite of resources for all the breastfeeding.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. So first of all, I guess we would sort of fall under the Classy thing if I wanted to raise money for Touch, but I'm trying to help these Black-led grassroots breast cancer organizations all around the country. We've now identified one in every state. We have 50 people that we're going to reach out to. We haven't reached out to all of them yet. And but they never go, think about getting pharma funding. They don't go to the big cancer meetings like ASCO and San Antonio Breast Cancer Conference. And then we definitely need to do one for Still Rise Farm. Mo's been doing these amazing retreats for Black breasties. but we have so many organizations that just to have $2,000 is like
Yeah.
a gift for them to be able to work in their community. Some of them are really small, and we have one that works like a 10-block radius in Chicago. And
Yeah.
she helps, she's known as a
Okay.
cancer lady. And so
Yeah.
to help them and give them a resource, because we're helping them by giving them education. You know, we had this big conference in August, and you know, Mo helped us put together to just educating them. But if we could give them an opportunity to figure out how to fundraise and support that, I want to make that a resource on our website for them, you know?
Yeah.
Also trustees.
Yeah, we could certainly do that. I mean, a number of different ways. It could also be a GoFundMe.org fund. So we could take that, you know, big pharma money, it's a tax deductible in that way, and then help you make sure that it gets out to all those grassroots and
Right.
you also just made me think of another sort of use case. So Dr. Mo, even, and Mom, like with this one too, with the farm or with anything that you're doing, you have a whole network of people who, even if they are not donating, they would also share. So the sharing responsibility doesn't only fall on you, right? So like, say, for example, Dr. Mo, when people are leaving the retreat, instead of being like, write me a good review, you'd be like, spread the word, help me
Right.
raise money so that we can get more people to just, you know, to have this benefit, things like that. And you can sort of
Mhm.
this whole other community with the link and ask them, they then all of a sudden are a part of your broader fundraising effort as well. And sometimes I think when you're, you know, making those asks of your community, like if I'm on a call and somebody's like, help me raise money, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm going to help you raise money and like go about your business. But if you're like, no, here is the link, and you make it super simple for people to be a part of the effort, I think there's like a lot less, it's just a lower barrier. And you might actually, yeah, I feel like people show up more in those instances too. So thinking about it in that way as well.
Wow. All right, we have two questions on the comments that I want to read to you. One of them says, I'm not trying to pronounce your name, babe. Balagan is her last name. This is such a great such a great topic. Research shows Black individuals are less likely to get funded on platforms like GoFundMe, in part because they don't have experience navigating these sites. This session provides tangible ways to overcome that hurdle. Thank you. So this is more of a thank you. Isn't that great? So we're doing that. So
I just also respond to that of like, one, so glad, like, this is exactly why literally I have the job that I have, and that Jess and I get to work together, is because I think that sort of community outreach, specific communities, is so helpful to dispel those myths, answer those questions, make sure that people know that it can be a real resource for them, is like exactly why we're trying to do this work. So happy to like continue to share more. And yeah, it's really, really awesome to hear that.
okay, great.
My follow-up question, really quickly though, Ricky, to that same thing is, are there algorithms to overcome, like on Facebook when you post something or other things, or is it really just the extent of your network is the extent of your reach?
I think, I mean, I would probably let like Facebook or the Meta, X, whatever, formerly known as Twitter, answer those questions. I think we've definitely seen our fundraiser links perform really well in those spaces. Just earlier today, I was on a thread about the success of GoFundMe links in WhatsApp, right? And we're seeing an incredible number of WhatsApp show up in TikToks and sort of micro influencers raising money for causes that they care about, right? Like philanthropy is now such a part of people's identity that it's showing up so much more in these spaces. But like the truth is, right, like GoFundMe is a reflection of the world. In very real time, we see everything that is happening show up on the platform. That's why we grew significantly during COVID, right? Because there was a lot of need that showed up, and and that presented itself on the platform. And so while we are a reflection of that, there's then inequities that sort of manifest themselves that are just, you know, a reality. And I think that's one thing that sort of you know, I think we can't solve for all of those things, but we do have a team of people who are very aware of those things. And so to the, you know, I mentioned this earlier, those folks who are waking up every day, looking at fundraisers, they are thinking about that. We have, you know, people who are dedicated even to Black joy stories to make sure that we're lifting up the narratives of Black people raising for causes and things that they care about that are not necessarily medical needs, right? And trying to, please stop for 1 second, please, trying to highlight the fact that there's a whole other, like people are raising money to start businesses, and let's like tell that story. Let's showcase those
Love that.
experiences and just change the narrative also of how Black people are showing up on the on the internet. And so we have, I think it's very front of mind for folks on the team, just knowing that like, as a, you know, as a tech company operating at the scale that we do, we can't solve for all of the inequities, but we can be really conscious of how we as people on this side of the platform show up for the people that we're trying to work for.
Gotcha.
Hey, Belle, come on the screen. It's okay. So somebody, Dr. Lakeisha Ross McGee writes, she must have missed the part about the nonprofit. She said, can nonprofits use GoFundMe? And the answer is yes. So you can go back and kind of rewatch the conversation that we had a few minutes ago, Dr. Lakeisha, because you definitely can. This is my granddaughter, Belle, the oldest one. She's 6. Say hi, Belle. Mhm.
We're not sick.
You're not
No.
sick? Okay, good.
All right.
Um,
I love
So
it.
this is so great. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that we definitely want to do this. And so one of the things that we do for Black Doctor with Black Doctor, Amanda, is write articles so that we can make this information more available. We'll put this on YouTube and everything, but I think we should write an article about it, and maybe even talk about the fundraisers that you're going to help me set up tomorrow, tonight, for me and Mo and Still Rise Farms and all the things that we want to do, but all the breasties that need help. And you know, the need is so immense. I mean, we see these women that come to us who, you know, I'm 38 like you, Amanda. I have 3 babies and I have metastatic triple negative breast cancer, and my husband threw me out, you know, like our friend in Florida who, you know, 41 triple negative breast cancer. She found it when she was nursing.
Wow.
And just like life issues that they're dealing with. Or you know what? I want to go to a party and I need a new pair of shoes. You know how many pairs of shoes I bought for people? You can only imagine. You know, that's one of the things that brings me joy. But
And it's true, you know, but it's
right, I want to go to a black tie for a fundraiser, but I have nothing to wear. Can you help me out?
sure. And it's not frivolous, right? Like you
No.
deserve.
Life.
And
is-
I think that that's something that we should stop placing judgment and,
Right.
you know, really looking to dive into people's finances, because you never know, one, what they're going through, and two,
Right.
the term financial toxicity has taken on new meaning as it relates to cancer care. And the financial toxicity of cancer treatment is devastating. If
devastating.
it's not, you know, from an insurance issue and those things, it's copays. If it's not copays, it's loss of earnings, right? Loss of wages from time that you've missed, from hours that you can't spend. You don't have that energy to do that overtime that you used to do. You can't do that extra consulting on the side and those side gigs that you used to do. You can't drive that Uber and do, you know, like everybody's got 3 and 4 jobs and all, but when you're going through cancer, you can't, because you have to prioritize yourself. And how do you do that when you used to prioritize making money to feed your family and being able to just stay afloat? And so I think that, you know, it's a good sort of eye opener, especially during October, to remind people not to judge
Yeah.
and to do what you can.
Yeah, and we love to arm people who are the, you know, the caregivers, the daughters, the sisters,
Right.
Yeah.
who are, you know, showing up also for those folks who literally just need to focus on themselves and like help those people set up a page, you know, like I remember writing my mom's caring bridge and
Every chemo, right?
Mhm.
providing updates, and you can do all of that on the GoFundMe platform.
That's
So
so cool.
one other thing too, like if you do post an update, it will be sent to any of the donors who have supported that cause. So it really can function. Like if you don't want to pick up the phone and call, you know, 50 people with like some update in your journey, you can post about it, right? And it will like instantly send a note to people. So it does have a lot of, I think, those sort of functionalities in
Yeah,
terms
with
of making.
social media functionality, it's better than a
Mhm.
Facebook. page. Also, you've captured an audience now. And you can directly communicate with this audience, and that's so great. That's so great because there's such an Amanda, I call these my, I'm gonna put my hand down, my $500,000 boobs. And
Right.
I was very blessed to have insurance, but we have so many women that don't have insurance to pay for healthcare, and even, Amanda, you and I
Like,
have been
About
conversation.
to, my GoFundMe is for the fact that I can't get insurance to pay.
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
care
I was
want.
going to bring that up, that, Amanda has 3 generations of breast cancer in our family, but we don't have a genetic mutation. And so in order to protect herself from breast cancer and get a prophylactic mastectomy or take whatever action she wants, it's going to cost out of pocket because her insurance won't cover it. And so
Mhm.
we have so many previvors, Amanda, that's what we call you, a previvor. And
No,
that we want to take care of and help them, prevent this disease. God, if I could have prevented it, oh my gosh, right? So, most, and we should fight your insurance question, and we will fight your insurance question, but yeah, she's going to help you with that. But I mean, but think about the women who don't have a Mo or don't have have a mom that does this for a living. So we have to figure out how to help them because, and also because of the lack of science about Black women and breast cancer, I probably do have a gene for triple negative that we haven't identified yet, that we're not testing for. And the work that we're doing with Dr. Melissa in Ghana is showing that there is a gene that's showing up in Ghana, in West Africa, in Black women with triple negative breast cancer. So
doing research, like all of that. People would
all
say,
the research,
I
yeah.
could be a sustainer to that campaign page. I'd be
Wow.
Yeah, well,
So
when
much.
we're working with Dr. Melissa now, and I'm reaching out to all these support groups and advocacy groups in West Africa and South Africa and Ethiopia and the UK who don't have a support system because frankly, they don't even have the numbers to know the mortality rates that are, that are more aggressive, or to be able to validate that this breast cancer is more aggressive in Black women because they don't track it. But
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I got one last question, I guess, before we got to get ready to wrap it up. And it's can people's companies and employers do matching to GoFundMe? So if you start a campaign and you invite your friends, family, colleagues, and so forth, and then we're coming up into November and December and those giving months where people are trying to figure out who they're going to give to and what they're going to do, can they match to that?
Absolutely.
we're going to set up a bunch of fundraisers between now and like Giving Tuesday and
Right.
get ready for year-end giving and post about it and talk about it because we need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell everyone else to post about them too, or
Yeah.
like,
Sure,
Like-
yeah, we'll use our voice. And thank you for this voice, Black Doctor. This
Mhm.
awesome platform to
We are so grateful,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
hope it's been relatable and reliable. And we know this is real because everybody is trying to figure out how to get through this thing, whether it's your cancer journey or whether it's raising money for the causes that you believe in and that you support and being the change, right? And not feeling like you're helpless to make change in the world, right? If we're going to be the change we want to see in the world, there's some avenues for you to do that. And GoFundMe is definitely one of the most powerful ones because everybody needs the resources to continue to provide programming, to do funding, to help people get food and clothes and shoes and chemo and clinical trials and, set up their websites and their nonprofits for causes that make our world better. So I applaud the work that you're doing, Amanda. I hope you feel on purpose and on time and not feel, I hope you don't feel lost in any way, because to me, it sounds like you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and it's great to meet you, Jess.
Yeah, it
You
is.
as well. Thank you both for having us. Really, truly appreciate it.
We
Well,
really
thank
appreciate it. So
you.
people, if you want to get to them, you can get to them through me, Ricky@touchbbca.org, or we'll put information. We put information in the comments, and
Look
we're
out
going
for the
to
article.
we'll come back and revisit this. We're going to come back and revisit this. You know what? So we do a show for a lot of the smaller nonprofits the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
Have them on and let them talk about their platform. So we're going to infuse this information into their brains. And so we'll come back on. So you guys have to come back on that show, man, and we'll probably be cooking. I'm usually cooking one for that show. But we'd love to have you back too, Jess, just to help them and see where we can land with this. So
I love it. And
Yeah.
we got a special show. Sorry, go ahead. Mhm.
I was gonna say, yeah, absolutely. And if you start one in the meantime and run into any questions, you can always bring them to that show to
Yeah.
ask them live.
yeah,
Okay.
for sure. For
We
sure.
love that. And we got a special show this Saturday, don't we?
We do. We have a special show this Saturday. We're not sure if we're going to be on Black Doctor yet, but we're definitely going to be on our Touch Facebook page for Haley's wedding. Haley's not a wedding.
That's right,
Event.
KNOT.
KNOT, not a wedding. And so we will be broadcasting live on the Touch Facebook page at 11 o'clock, a special show, and we will have probably a picture of all of the people that are participating in this Not a Wedding event. So
Wow.
Amanda will be
I
there.
guarantee you, it's not going to be not a good time.
No,
We're
it's
going to
gonna
not
be-
make sure that it will.
It will definitely be a good time. And it
Yeah,
will be
well.
all about Haley and her shenanigans. And so we're
All
excited.
about love.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we
Oh.
hope it's been relatable, reliable, and real. We thank Black Doctor, our sponsors, right?
Yes, Amgen Novartis, we thank you so much. Genentech,
Yes.
thank you for the platform and the opportunity to work with you.
Yeah, Daiichi Senko as well for blasting us on social media. We saw it, we appreciate it, and
Yeah,
we're so grateful for it. So we'll see you next time.
see you next week. See you
Ciao.
next week. Thank you
Yes.
guys
Hi,
so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Love you, man. Rusty love. You got it, Amanda.
You gotta do it.
The
I
hearts.
love it. How'd they get hearts?
How'd you get hearts?
Do we have hearts?
How'd you do that?
Hearts? Any fancy hearts? That's all right. I
You guys
love it.
shouldn't have to do that. Kiss my baby.
funny right there.
Okay.
Awesome.
Bye.
Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
And-
Bye.
and-